All right, so we just walked through how to stack some tables together using the Query Editor Append tools. And we took these three individual sales data files from 2022, 21, and 20 and combined them into a new appended data set, right, where we stacked all three of them on top of each other. And that worked pretty well, but remember the downside. This new table we created is now dependent on three individual component tables. So we can't delete any of these individual tables, or if we need to add in new years worth of data, like we'll have to reconfigure the append to make that work. So again, it works decently, but it doesn't scale very well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually delete these 4 sales queries, and then we're going to use Power BI and connect to a folder instead. All right, so first things first, we can delete this append query. And then once that's removed, we can actually start removing our individual sales data files, right? Because now they're not referencing any other queries. And delete 2021. And then our last file here for 2022, we'll delete that. All right, and we're good to go here. So now that we've done that, we're left with our 6 kind of main lookup tables that we're going to be using to build out our data model. And from here, what we want to do is we actually want to go in and connect to a new source, right? That's going to be that folder. And I quickly want to show you what's contained within that folder. So I'm going to navigate to that folder on my desktop. All right, so this is the folder where we've got all of the AdventureWorks data. And I have this sales data folder here. If I double click into this, you'll see that we've got our 3 sales tables for 2022, 21, and 20 within here. And this is what we're going to be connecting to from the Power BI folder data source. So we'll jump back to the query editor and we'll come up here to a new source. And I'm going to click more for more options. All right, and from the Get Data window, you actually see we've got our folder option right here. We can click Connect. And the query editor prompts us with the folder path. Click Browse to browse your file structure. All right, desktop, AdventureWorks, raw data, and then our sales data, right? So this is the file path that we want. Click OK. And again, this is going to follow that same process where it's going to bring up a data preview window. We'll be able to check out what that data looks like. Now, what's interesting here is this preview window looks a little bit different, right? It's got this content column that says binary. It's got file names and extensions and date accessed and modified. It's got the folder path string. So rather than actually previewing the data, the actual rows and the columns, what we're actually previewing are the files that exist within the folder path, right? So it's a little bit different here, but a similar process, right? And we've got 2 options as well. We can combine and transform, or we can just transform the data. Either one of these options is going to kind of put us into the same spot, but I'm going to click Transform Data so we can walk through each of these steps. So here we go. We pressed edit, we're back in our query editor, and we see that similar kind of view that we got in preview, right? We've got content and the name, our file extension, date modified, created our folder path, and all that kind of stuff. So again, we're still not looking at data points here. We're still looking at the attributes of the files that exist within that folder that we've linked to. The key here is the first column. And this column is kind of similar to the column that was created when we merged tables, where we had to take one extra step to actually split out the columns from the table itself. It's the same idea here. So you can see when I hover, it says Combine Files. And when we press this, it runs through a different append process. So once Power BI finishes that behind the scenes process, we're brought to this new window with this Combine Files header. And this looks like the data preview that we were seeing when we brought in our individual sales data tables, right? Our order and stock dates, order number, product key, customer key, orders, line items, order quantity, right? So this all looks very familiar. The other thing that's interesting here too is if you click on this sample file, the default is the first file that you've connected to, right? So 2020. But you can actually click through and view previews based on the other data tables that are contained within that folder. Right, so this is just another great way to kind of go in and check to make sure that column structures and all of that stuff is the exact same. All right, so everything looks good here, kind of checks out. We've got 2021 for our order date. From here, we're going to click OK. All right, we've got a whole bunch of different applied steps here that were automatically generated. If we check out our order date column here, we can load more. We can actually see, so we've got 2020, 2021, 2022, all the way through June. All right, so everything looks good there. Our column structure is all the exact same, with the exception of this new source name column. And what this column is doing is it just tells us which file from within the folder that the data came from. So it's potentially a helpful attribute if you do want to keep it. In this case, we really don't need it. So let's go ahead and we can remove this column from our sales data table. And there you have it. We have our appended table containing all of our sales data in one place. And as you can probably see here, it gave us an automatic table name that's based on the folder, right? So our folder name was sales data, right? So we could update this if we wanted to. Honestly, I think that this is a great name for it, so we're going to leave it as is. One last thing to note here, over on the left-hand side of the screen where the queries are, is we've got a whole bunch of other detail and information that was automatically generated by the query editor. And basically what this is this is all of the behind the scenes stuff that Power BI needed to do in order to append those 3 files together from that folder. So typically what I'll do here is I'll just collapse these queries, right? And just kind of hide them. And that way I can kind of stay focused on my other queries that I have here. We're ending up with that same end result as appending those 3 individual tables together, except now we've got one nice clean table without all of those extra tables and dependencies. And even more importantly, if we ever needed to pull in additional years of sales data, we could simply drop those CSV files right into that folder. Press refresh right here inside the query editor, and all of that data would be automatically pulled in. So that should just about do it here for this demo on connecting to data that's located in a folder. Let's come up here, we'll click close and apply. And Power BI is working on updating all of those changes that we made within the query editor. All right, so once this wraps up, we should see that sales data 2022 table disappear and just be updated with the sales data table. All right, so it looks like we're good to go here, and that's going to wrap up your pro tip on connecting to data that's located in a folder.